By default, menu items appear on the Options menu, but you can also cause them to appear in the Action Bar area. That's the bar at the top of the app. Here's how you can do this in XML. First, I'll go to my menu main.xml file, and I'm working now in the project named Action Bar. I'll add a new item, and I'll set its ID to action_cart. Then I'll set order and category to a value of 0. That means I don't care where it's ordered in the menu itself, because it's actually going to appear in the Action Bar area. Next, I'll set its title to Shopping Cart. I'll extract that as a string resource, and I'll name the string resource Shopping Cart, all lowercase with an underscore. And then I'll set the attribute ShowAsAction to a value of always. You can also set it to a value of if room, and that would mean only display this on the action bar if you have enough space. But for this, I'm going to use always because eventually this is going to appear as a graphical icon. Now, as before, instead of using the Android prefix, I'll use the app prefix. Here's why we're doing this. In the main activity class, as the app starts up, there's code in place that's replacing the actual action bar with an object called the toolbar. And the toolbar class is a class from the support library. The general rule is that any attributes that are defined in the core Android SDK libraries have the prefix Android. But there are times where attributes of objects that are defined in the support libraries use the app prefix. If you're not sure, take a look at how a particular attribute needs to be defined in the documentation or samples for a particular class, and that's where you'll get your guidance. So now, when I run the app, my new menu item won't appear in the menu. Instead, it'll appear on the action bar. And right now, it's appearing as a string. Notice it's all uppercase, and that's because of the themes that are being applied to this app. Next, I'll add code to handle that menu item. I'll go back to my main activity class, and I'll go to the code that's handling my menu items, and then once again I'll select a bit of code and duplicate it. This one will be for the menu item with the ID action_cart, and I'll change the string of the message to you selected the shopping cart. And I'll run the code again. And now when I press the action bar item, I get the message. So you can see that this really is an options menu item, even though it's appearing in a different part of the user interface. Finally, I'll show you how to replace the string for the action bar item with a graphic. You'll want to create a graphic that's specifically for the action bar. One way to do it is to go through Android Studio and select File, New, Image Asset. Then choose Clip Art and see if there's a clip art icon that's appropriate for your use. Now, sometimes you won't find it, and sometimes you'll want something that's specifically designed for use with the Material Design visual language. And here's where you can get some useful graphical icons. I'll go to my browser and then to this website, materialdesignicons.com. This is a repository for icons that have been created both by the Android development team and by members of the community. I'll click here into the search box and type cart, and that finds a couple of different items. I'll choose this one, the cart item. Then I'll pull down the list for icon package and choose Android 5.x. Now, the way you extract this will differ from Windows to Mac, but I'm going to jump into the zip file and show that there are a couple of different versions. One of these versions is an XML file, a vector drawing. This can be useful if the app you're building is designed with a minimum SDK of API level 21. But if you want to be compatible with older versions of Android, you'll have to use a real graphic file. So I'm going to go to the drawable XXX HDPI bucket, and I'm going to choose the highest resolution version that's available. And that's what it looks like. It has a white foreground and a transparent background. And I'm just going to drag this onto my desktop here, and that will extract it from the zip file. If you're working on Mac, the file will probably already have been extracted, and you can just make a copy of the graphic you want. So now I'll show that my cart graphic has been dropped onto my desktop, and I'm ready to integrate it into my application. In Android Studio, I'll go to the App module in the Project window, and then choose File, New, Image Asset. I'll change the asset type to an action bar or tab icon, and then with image selected, I'll browse. I'll go to my desktop, and I'll choose that PNG file that I extracted from the zip file. Notice it's shown in a variety of resolutions. If you were to change the theme from Holo Dark to Holo Light, you'd see it rendered in a dark color. I want it in a white color. Then I'll change the resource name that I'm generating to IC_action_cart. I'll click Next, and then Finish. And in my Resources folder under Drawable, there are now 4 versions of that PNG file. Now I'll go back to my XML file that defines my menu. I'll add an icon attribute to this menu item. And I'll identify the graphic that I want to display using the resource ID, starting with drawable/ and then IC_action_cart. And I'll run the app again. And this time, the menu item appears as the graphic. I can touch the graphic, and I see exactly the same response. So now, even though it's a picture on the action bar, it's treated exactly the same as the text-based menu items in the Options menu.